It has been a sad Monday in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, as one of the Bangladesh Air Force training planes crashed on students while they were taking test examinations, and some of them attending regular classes at Milestone School and College, with 19 victims already confirmed dead by local authorities, while over 100 persons, mostly students, are hospitalized. This, the head of Interim government of Bangladesh, Yunus, has assured the public that the government of Bangladesh will carry out investigation to ascertain the cause of the military plane crash, as some of the victims were seen walking out from the burning flames with almost completely burned bodies. It was gathered that the plane crashed immediately after takeoff around 1 p.m. local Bangladesh time, which was 7 o'clock a.m. GTM. According to Hindustan Times, a Bangladesh Air Force F-7BGI training aircraft crashed into a college campus in Dhaka, killing at least 19 and injuring over 100 people. Local media reported that the leaders and activists of Bangladesh Chhatraleague faced a brutal mob attack while donating blood to save the injured students of the Milestone School plane crash. Military and a fire official said the Bangladesh Air Force F-7BGI aircraft crashed into the campus of Milestone School and College in Dhaka's Uttara neighborhood on Monday afternoon, where students were taking tests or attending regular classes. Saidur Rahman, a National Burn Institute official in Dhaka, told Bangladesh's leading English daily, the Daily Star, reported that the death toll rose to 16 within hours as reported by CNN, and a few hours later, the Daily Star updated its reports to 19 confirmed dead and 100 persons injured. Parents and relatives panicked at the scene as rescuers, using tricycle rickshaws or whatever was available, transported the injured. Rafika Taha, a student at the school who was not present at the time of the crash, said, according to the Associated Press report, that Milestone School and College, with some 2,000 students, runs classes from elementary to 12th grade. On Monday, she said, some students were taking tests while others attended regular classes. I was terrified watching videos on TV, said the 16-year-old student. My God, it's my school. The Bangladesh Army's Public Relations Office confirmed in a brief statement that the downed F-7BGI aircraft belonged to the Air Force. Fire official Lima Khanum stated by phone that at least one person died and 4 others were injured, though she did not provide further details. A third-grade student was brought in dead, and 3 others, aged 12, 14 and 40, were admitted to the hospital. Bidhan Sarkar, head of the burn unit at the Dhaka Medical College and Hospital, where some victims were taken, said, according to Reuters news agency. Yunus, head of Bangladesh's interim government, said, necessary measures would be taken to investigate the cause of the accident and ensure all kinds of assistance. The loss suffered by the Air Force, students, parents, teachers and staff, and others in this accident is irreparable, he said. Yunus also announced that an emergency hotline has been activated at the National Institute of Burn and Plastic Surgery in the wake of the crash. In quotes, Yunus tweeted and said, an emergency hotline has been activated at the National Institute of Burn and Plastic Surgery due to urgent needs following the crash of a Bangladesh Air Force training aircraft at the Milestone School and College campus, resulting in casualties. Hotline number 01949043697. In the Dayabari area of the capital, at the Milestone School and College campus, a Bangladesh Air Force training aircraft crashed, resulting in casualties. The bodies of those whose identities can be confirmed will be handed over to their families as soon as possible. The bodies of those whose identities cannot be immediately confirmed will be identified through DNA testing and subsequently handed over to their families. The Honorable Chief Advisor is closely monitoring the treatment of the injured. To ensure uninterrupted medical operations, the general public is specially requested to avoid unnecessary crowding in the hospital area. I express my deep grief and sorrow over the tragic incident of casualties caused by the crash of a Bangladesh Air Force F-7BG training aircraft at the Milestone School and College campus in the Dayabari area of the capital today. The loss suffered by the Air Force, the students, parents, teachers, and staff of Milestone School and College, as well as others affected by this accident, is irreparable. This is a moment of profound pain for the nation. I pray for the speedy recovery of the injured and direct all concerned authorities, including hospitals, to address the situation with the utmost priority. The government will take necessary measures to investigate the cause of the accident and ensure all forms of assistance. The Bangladesh Red Crescent Society has called for donations for those injured.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
As multiple wars in the Middle East appear unabated, Israel, the main defender and attacker on multiple waterfronts in the city of Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, Yemen and now Syria, has ordered the Israel Aerospace Industries, IAI, to mass-produce Arrow missiles interceptors in a very large numbers, with the Israel Ministry of Defense saying that the state of Israel has increased its defense spending for 2025 and 2026 to 42 billion new Israeli shekels, which is approximately $12.5 billion. During the 12-day war with Iran, there were multiple reports that Israel was running low on Arrow missiles interceptors defense system as Iran long-range missiles were seen hitting targets in Israel. Aerospace observers said the advanced Arrow high-altitude defense systems are critical to countering long-range ballistic missile threats, like those launched from Iran during the 12-day war in June 2025. According to the Israel Ministry of Defense in a press statement on Thursday, the Director General of the Israel Ministry of Defense, IMOD, Major General, Reservist, Amir Baram, signed a production contract to significantly accelerate the serial production of Arrow interceptors at IAI, Israel Aerospace Industries. As part of the deal, IAI will supply the IMOD with a significant additional amount of Arrow interceptors. The deal was led by Moshe Patel, Director of the Israel Missile Defense Organization, IMDO, within the ministry's Directorate of Defense Research and Development, DDRD. The Arrow system, developed and manufactured in cooperation with the U.S. Missile Defense Agency, MDA, demonstrated significant interception capabilities during the Swords of Iron War, especially during Operation Rising Lion. The system provides exo-atmospheric and endo-atmospheric interception capabilities against ballistic missile threats, protecting the state of Israel from strategic long-range threats. The Arrow system integrates cutting-edge technologies and is considered one of the world's most advanced air and missile defense systems. IAI is the prime contractor for developing the Arrow system and its interceptors through its MLM facility in partnership with the U.S. company Stark Aerospace. Other partners include IAI's ELTA and TAMAM divisions, Elbit Systems, TOMA, and Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. The U.S. Missile Defense Agency, MDA, is a major partner of the IMDO at the ministry's DDRD in the development and production of Israel's multi-layered defense systems, including the Arrow and David's Sling weapon systems, and the production of Iron Dome defense system components. The strategic cooperation between the MDA and the IMDO helps ensure Israel's technological edge in air and missile defense. Also on Thursday, Israel Aerospace Industries, IAI, in a statement said, Israel is reinforcing its defenses on all fronts, at full speed. In a major move to strengthen national security, the Ministry of Defense has signed a significant production contract with Israel Aerospace Industries, IAI, to fast-track the mass production of Arrow interceptors. This strategic step will significantly increase production and expand Israel's interceptor stockpiles, ensuring the country remains fully prepared for both ongoing operations and future long-range threats. The Arrow system, designed to intercept ballistic missiles outside Earth's atmosphere, proved its unmatched performance during the recent defense campaign, saving lives and preventing widespread damage. As the lead developer and manufacturer, IAI is operating at full capacity in collaboration with trusted partners in Israel and around the world. Together, we're not only protecting the present, we're innovating for the future. Israeli-based news media, Jerusalem Post, also on Thursday, reported that the Director General of Israel Defense Ministry, Major General Amir Baram said that Israel will raise its defense spending by 42 billion new Israel shekels, which is $12.5 billion this year and in 2026, the Finance and Defense Ministries said on Thursday, citing the country's security challenges. The budget agreement will enable the Defense Ministry to advance urgent and essential procurement deals critical to national security, the ministry stated in a press release. A long-term build-up plan starting in 2027 will be developed, per Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's instructions, to strengthen readiness and technological superiority against distant threats, the ministry said. Additionally, mechanisms for the oversight of the defense budget will be strengthened, according to the statement. The Director General of the ministry, Major General Amir Baram, said that this move would allow the Defense Ministry to replenish consumed stocks of weapons and ammunition. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, Defense Minister Israel Katz, and Finance Ministry Director General Ilan Rom all welcomed the increase in defense spending. The challenges ahead are complex, in distant and close arenas, against enemies who openly declare their intent to destroy us. For this, absolute military, technological, and operational superiority is required, Katz said. We had reported that shortly after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu returned from the United States, U.S. on Sunday, where he had paid an official visit to the U.S. President, Donald Trump, lawmakers and other U.S. government officials, the misunderstanding between Bedouin and Druze tribes in the Swaida region of Syria that started last Friday took a new twist, evolving into a deadly conflict after a Druze man was robbed at gunpoint on Friday by gunmen suspected to be natives of Bedouin tribe. This, Druze residents in Swaida shortly on Friday mobilized, went after the people of Bedouin, arrested and detained a lot of natives from the Bedouin tribe, forcing the people of Bedouin to retaliate, and the conflicts led to mass killings, unabated. And on Tuesday, the Syria interim government soldiers entered Swaida reportedly to restore law and order, but Israel-based media reported that the Syria interim government soldiers, mostly members of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, assisted and joined the Bedouin militias to kill the people of Druze, and in a swift response, the office of the Prime Minister of Israel in a press statement on Tuesday said, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Israel Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, have authorized the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, to attack Syria interim regime forces led by Syria interim President Ahmed Hussein al-Shara, who Israel Policy Forum, in a publication published in December 2024, stated that the new Syria presents fresh challenges for Israel, stating that the Turkey-backed Sunni jihadist group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, was an al-Qaeda's former Syrian branch, and its leader, Abu Muhammad al-Golani, also known as Ahmed Hussein al-Shara, who is the current interim president of Syria, was a member of an early version of the Islamic State, saying, Golani's chosen last name also foreshadows conflict over territory, that his family hails from the Golan Heights, which Israel partly occupied after the 1973 war and annexed in 1981, although President al-Shara, in nationwide broadcast on Thursday after ceasefire began around 9 p.m. on Wednesday night, said that the protection of Druze people is a top priority in his interim government, but he's not afraid of Israel that bombed the Syria military headquarters and the military base near Syria Presidential Palace in Damascus on Wednesday that led to the death of 5 persons in addition to more than 300 people killed. Less than a week the new conflict ensued.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Shortly after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu returned from the United States, U.S. on Sunday, where he had paid an official visit to the U.S. President, Donald Trump, lawmakers and other U.S. government officials, the misunderstanding between Bedouin and Druze tribes in the Swaida region of Syria that started last Friday took a new twist, evolving into a deadly conflict after a Druze man was robbed at gunpoint on Friday by gunmen suspected to be natives of Bedouin tribe. This, Druze residents in Swaida shortly on Friday mobilized, went after the people of Bedouin, arrested and detained a lot of natives from the Bedouin tribe, forcing the people of Bedouin to retaliate, and the conflicts led to mass killings. Unabated, and on Tuesday, the Syria interim government soldiers entered Swaida reportedly to restore law and order, but Israel-based media reported that the Syria interim government soldiers, mostly members of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, assisted and joined the Bedouin militias to kill the people of Druze, and in a swift response, the office of the Prime Minister of Israel, in a press statement on Tuesday, said, "The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Israel Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, have authorized the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, to attack Syria interim regime forces led by Syria interim President Ahmed Hussein al-Sharaa, who Israel Policy Forum, in a publication published in December 2024, stated that the new Syria presents fresh challenges for Israel, stating that the Turkey-backed Sunni jihadist group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, was an al-Qaeda's former Syrian branch, and its leader, Abu Muhammad al-Golani, also known as Ahmed Hussein al-Sharaa, who is the current interim president of Syria, was a member of an early version of the Islamic State, saying, Golani's chosen last name also foreshadows conflict over territory, that his family hails from the Golan Heights, which Israel partly occupied after the 1973 war and annexed in 1981. Although President al-Sharaa, in nationwide broadcast on Thursday after ceasefire began around 9 p.m. on Wednesday night, said that the protection of Druze people is a top priority in his interim government, but he's not afraid of Israel that bombed the Syria military headquarters and the military base near Syria Presidential Palace in Damascus on Wednesday that led to the death of 5 persons in addition to more than 300 people killed. Less than a week the new conflict ensued. According to Reuters reporters, warplanes swooped low over the Syria capital and unleashed a series of massive strikes on central Damascus. The cityscape was blanketed in smoke, with a thick plume rising from the defense ministry. "We are acting decisively to prevent the entrenchment of hostile elements beyond the border, protect Israeli citizens, and prevent harm to Druze civilians," the Israel Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, stated during a situational assessment at the Syrian border after the IDF strikes on Wednesday. The attacks carried out by Israel, this time on central Damascus, following its military interventions in southern Syria, constitute a deliberate attempt to sabotage Syria's efforts to achieve peace, stability, and security, Turkey government through the Office of the Foreign Affairs Ministry stated. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, had stated on Wednesday in a press statement that the IDF struck the entrance of the Syrian regime's military headquarters in the area of Damascus in Syria. The IDF continues to monitor developments and the regime's actions against Druze civilians in southern Syria. In accordance with directives from the political echelon, the IDF is striking in the area and remains prepared for various scenarios. On Tuesday, IDF said, following the directive of the political echelon, a short while ago, the IDF began striking military vehicles belonging to Syrian regime forces in the area of As-Suwaida in southern Syria. This follows yesterday evening's identification of Syrian regime convoys, including armored personnel carriers and tanks, moving toward the area of As-Suwaida in southern Syria. The IDF struck several armored fighting vehicles consisting of tanks, APCs, and MLRS, as well as access roads, in order to disrupt the convoy's arrival to the area. We continue to monitor the developments while remaining ready and prepared for various scenarios. One of the Druze people who crossed from the Israeli-occupied Golan into Syria, in a speech in the village of Haidar, was reported to have said, "I came here from the occupied Golan despite the Israeli occupation and its army. What these Takfiri gangs, the gangs of Ahmed al-Sharaa, are doing cannot be accepted nor tolerated. We hold the Israeli government and the United States responsible, because they are the ones who brought al-Julani here along with America, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. Netanyahu can stop the war within an hour. We don't ask for protection from Israel or anyone. We are protected by God." Syria President Ahmed Hussein al-Sharaa, in a televised nationwide broadcast on Thursday, said protecting Druze citizens is a priority while rejecting any foreign involvement. In his first televised statement after Israeli strikes on Damascus, he said Syrians must be defended without inviting chaos or destruction, saying, Israel seeks to create chaos in Syria. President al-Sharaa accused Israel of trying to destabilize Syria, saying, the Israeli entity seeks to turn our land into a theater of chaos. The Syrian people are always ready to defend the dignity. He claimed Israel intensified the situation through its actions, especially toward the Druze population. Since the regime's fall, Israel has aimed to dismantle Syria. We have chosen not to be dragged into direct confrontation, to preserve national security, he added. Instead of retaliation, al-Sharaa announced that responsibility for local security would be given to tribal leaders and local factions. Office of the Prime Minister of Israel on Tuesday had said, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz have directed the IDF to immediately attack the regime forces and the weaponry that entered the Swaida area of the Druze mountain in Syria, and that the regime intended to use against the Druze, which was done in contravention of the demilitarization policy they decided on, of preventing the entry of forces and weaponry that endangers Israel in the southern region of Syria. Israel is committed to preventing harm being inflicted on the Druze in Syria, owing to the deep covenant of blood with our Druze citizens in Israel and their historical and familial link to the Druze in Syria. We are acting to prevent the Syrian regime from harming them, and to ensure the demilitarization of the region adjacent to our border with Syria. The Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, in a recorded video statement on Wednesday, said, and in quotes, my fellow citizens of the Druze region, the situation in Swaida, the situation in southwest Syria, is very serious. The IDF is operating, the Air Force is operating, other forces are operating. We are working to save our Druze brothers and to eliminate the regime's gangs. And now I have one request from you. You are a citizen of Israel. Do not cross the line. You are endangering your lives. You can be murdered. You can be kidnapped, and you are hurting the efforts of the IDF. And that's why I'm asking you, go back to your homes, let the IDF act. Harnet News, an Israel-based news media in details, reported that Syrian regime forces began withdrawing Wednesday evening from the predominantly Druze southern Swaida province following 5 days of intense clashes, Israeli airstrikes and mass cross-border movement of Druze from Israel into Syrian territory. The withdrawal was part of a ceasefire agreement reached between the regime and senior figures in the local Druze leadership. The deal, announced earlier in the day by Sheikh Yusuf Jerboua, a prominent Druze cleric, calls for the full integration of Swaida into the new Syrian administration. However, it also requires the regime's military units, which were involved in heavy fighting in the region, to pull out and allow local Druze forces to take over internal security. Local media reported that the pullback began around 9 p.m. under the terms of the agreement, which permits police forces affiliated with the regime to remain in the province and coordinate with local Druze security elements. A mechanism was also established to regulate possession of heavy weapons, aimed at ending their use outside of official state frameworks. Coordination with religious and community leaders was emphasized, with sensitivity to the social and historical context of the Druze majority province. The ceasefire followed reports of atrocities during the fighting, including summary executions of civilians by regime forces and allied Bedouin militias, public humiliation of Druze religious leaders, and the looting and burning of homes. A commission of inquiry is to be established to investigate these incidents. Sheikh Hikmat al-Hijri, the community's top spiritual authority in Syria, rejected the agreement outright, calling to continue the struggle until Swaida is liberated. He said there could be no negotiation, with the armed gangs calling themselves the government, and warned that anyone deviating from the unified community position would be held accountable. A prominent local Druze militia, the Men of Dignity movement, also opposed the deal and demanded a full withdrawal of all regime forces. After the martyrdom of our best leaders and fighters, the movement will defend itself until the last fighter able to carry a weapon, unless the invaders retreat from all villages and towns, the group said. Reports of Wednesday evening's withdrawal came shortly after the U.S. State Department called on President Ahmed al-Shara's regime to pull its forces out of Swaida, to allow all parties to de-escalate tensions. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed shortly afterward that an agreement had been reached, which he said could bring the crisis to an end as early as tonight. The agreement includes specific steps required from all sides, he said. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made, and this is what we fully expect them to do, a comment likely referring also to an end to Israeli airstrikes. Control over Swaida remains a central issue in the ongoing tensions. The province is home to Syria's largest Druze community, numbering about 700,000, and has long feared persecution under the al-Shara regime, which has been accused of seeking to return the Druze to pure Islam and dismantle their traditional way of life. In April, violent clashes erupted between Druze fighters and regime forces, resulting in more than 100 deaths. That round of fighting ended with a ceasefire in May, and since then Druze forces had maintained security control in the province. The latest round of fighting has so far claimed more than 300 lives, according to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. That figure includes 69 Druze fighters and 40 Druze civilians, 27 of whom were reportedly executed. It also includes 165 regime soldiers and 18 Bedouin militia members. The violence began late last week after Bedouin gunmen robbed a young Druze man from Swaida. In response, local residents detained several members of Bedouin tribes, escalating tensions. On Tuesday, as fighting continued, al-Shara's forces entered the provincial capital, claiming they aimed to restore order, but according to reports, they joined in the clashes and were involved in attacks against the Druze population. Druze leaders appealed to the international community, describing the situation as a campaign of extermination. Israel responded with a series of intensified airstrikes aimed at forcing Syrian forces out of Swaida. Among the targets was the Syrian military headquarters in Damascus, hit in a strike broadcast live on Syrian television, killing 5. A military site near al-Shara's presidential palace was also struck, and an Israeli military source told Reuters the attack was a direct message to the regime. Israel will not allow a military build-up on its border with southern Syria, and it will not allow the massacre of Druze in Syria, the official said. We have reported that the Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has commended and praised the efforts of personnel at the Israel Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations, known in Hebrew word as Mossad, over the fall of Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria early December 2024, apparently corroborating the statement issued by the Iran Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, in late December 2024 that the fall of President al-Assad regime was a plan orchestrated by Israel and the United States, U.S. under the leadership of then-President Joe Biden. This, Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, at the 68th session of the United Nations General Assembly on October 1, 2013, said that Iran directly participated in Assad's murder and massacre of tens of thousands of innocent men, women and children in Syria, used chemical weapons against its own people, and in 2010, the ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad had accused Israel of avoiding peace, and Syrian Foreign Minister Walid Muallim warned that in the event of a future war, Israeli cities would be targeted by Syrian missiles, an action Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu believed to be the underground work of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. He had accused severally of being the root cause of war in the Middle East, specifically stating at the 68th session of the UN Assembly that, some 2,500 years ago, the great Persian King Cyrus ended the Babylonian exile of the Jewish people. He issued a famous edict in which he proclaimed the right of the Jews to return to the land of Israel and rebuild the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. That's a Persian decree, and thus began an historic friendship between the Jews and the Persians that lasted until modern times. But in 1979 a radical regime in Tehran tried to stamp out that friendship. As it was busy crushing the Iranian people's hope for democracy, it always led wild chants of death of the Jews. Now, since that time, presidents of Iran have come and gone. Some presidents were considered moderates, other hardliners. But they've all served that same unforgiving creed, that same unforgiving regime, that creed that is espoused and enforced by the real power in Iran, the dictator known as the supreme leader, first Ayatollah Khomeini and now Ayatollah Khamenei. We had reported that in April 2025, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu traveled to the United States, US and held meetings with President Donald Trump, only returned from the official trip and intensified more aggressive military campaigns in Gaza and staged a military confrontation with Iran, which led to the killing of almost 1,000 Iranians in a 12-day war with the Islamic country. This, on Tuesday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his cabinet members that he will travel to the US next week to hold very important security meetings with President Donald Trump and the US lawmakers amongst others, while specifically telling the cabinet members that the details of the scheduled meetings are things he cannot reveal at the briefing. We had reported that the United States, US President Donald Trump has accused members of the Israel House of Assembly, known in Hebrew word as Knesset, of apparent politically witch-hunting the Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with corruption case President Trump had described as nothing but political witch hunt, saying the Knesset prosecutors should let Benjamin Netanyahu go, that he's a war hero who have worked with the US to eliminate Iran nuclear threats, and currently he has a big job to do with negotiations of peace deals with Iran and Hamas, stressing in a questioned manner how possible is it for the Israel Prime Minister to sit in court all day long. The Prime Minister lawyer had filed a 2-week delay of the case, citing national security demands following the 12-day Israel-Iran war, but the court sitting in Jerusalem rejected the application on Friday, and Benjamin Netanyahu, who has spent 20 years as Israel Prime Minister, was expected to be in court on Monday for cross-examination in the corruption case that started with police investigation in 2016 and the court trial commenced in 2020. But a report from some foreign media quoting the Prime Minister political party, Likud, a few hours ago indicated that the court on Sunday has postponed the case and cancelled it from holding this week. Similarly, some members of the Knesset had accused the Prime Minister of trying to use the regional war with Hamas, Hezbollah and Iran to secure end to the corruption charges. We had reported that thousands of mourners on Saturday put on mostly black and black clothes and rallied from Engelab Square to Azadi Square in Tehran, the Iranian state capital, to honor the country's top military commanders, nuclear scientists, 4 little children and 4 women among the hundreds of people killed during the 12 days war the Islamic country had with Israel and the United States, US, with the mourners chanting anti-US and Israel songs while the Iran supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was not seen at the funeral, with reports indicating that he has remained out of public space and still taking cover in a well-secured hideout since, on Tuesday, the ceasefire between the two countries had been brokered, and the cynosure of many eyes at the state funeral ceremony was the arrival and appearance of 2 top senior Iranian military officers previously declared killed by Israel, Ali Shamkhani, senior advisor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, and Esmail Khani, commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC Quds Force, which Israel Defense Forces, IDF, had claimed to have assassinated with an airstrike on the 13th of June 2025 during the start of the Iran-Israel war. However, Iranian state media contradicted the IDF report on the 20th of June that the officials are still alive, and they were in stable condition after recovering from severe injuries from the strike. We had reported that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has listed what the troops of Operation Rising Lions achieved in a 12-day war with the Islamic Republic of Iran, stating that Israel will now pursue the path of making peace with nations in the Middle East and compensate those that suffered damages, specifically stating that all the buildings destroyed by Iran ballistic missiles will be rebuilt anew by the Israeli government for the victims, adding that, without the immense achievements in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, and against the said terrorism in Judea and Samaria, Israel would not have been able to reach Tehran, made the statement on Tuesday evening after Iran President Masoud Pezeshkian announced an end to the 12 days tense and frightening military campaigns that the United States, led by President Donald Trump, took side with Israel and officially and openly got itself involved in the war on Saturday 2025 when U.S. special military troops flew several B-2 bombers fighter jets and attacked 3 Iranian cities of Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan with allegations that the Iranian nuclear facilities in the cities have been destroyed, allegations several media reports and authorities in Tehran have dismissed, but in retaliation to the U.S. invasion of the Iranian territory, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC launched 6 missiles into Qatar on Monday with the intention to destroy U.S. military base in the Qatari capital of Doha known as U.S. Al Udeid Air Base, but, according to Qatar state media, Doha News, all the missiles were intercepted. We had reported that the head of the Christian Catholic Church, Pope Leo XIV, has appealed to all actors involved in the ongoing war in the Middle East and beyond to end the battles because, according to the Pope, war only amplifies or creates more problems and no amount of military victory can compensate the pains of mothers, the stolen futures and the fear of children, emphasizing that war does not solve problem. We had reported that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has commended President Trump of the United States, U.S. over the night attack the U.S. military for the first time for years carried out on Iranian cities of Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan, saying, like him and President Trump do say that peace comes through strength, the U.S. troops acted with a lot of strength while bombing the nuclear facilities in the 3 cities of Iran. We had reported that the United States, U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that the U.S. military troops have attacked nuclear facilities in the Iranian cities of Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan on Saturday night, June 21, 2025, according to U.S. local time of Pacific Standard Time, PST, which was already early morning night on Sunday, June 22, 2025 for countries on Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, saying, the U.S. military attacks on Iran was completely successful as White House published photographs of President Trump and his cabinet members said to be watching the U.S. operations in Iran nuclear sites, although no authority in Iran has issued any statement over the attacks and some of the media in Iran are yet to give update on the conditions of things in the 3 cities, but an apparent military insider media of Iran Armed Forces, Daily Iran military tweeted that residents in the vicinity of Fordo reported no indication of a major explosion, while also adding that the deputy political editor of Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, IRIB, was on live TV program in the station saying Iran has already evacuated 3 nuclear sites some time ago. This, Israel Defense Forces, IDF, earlier on Saturday night posted an aerial view recorded video of the Israeli troops bombing a location said to be Isfahan nuclear site facility, said the Iranian uranium enrichments reconversion were taking place. We had reported that 22 persons suspected to be spies have been arrested in the Iranian province of with an apparent military insider media that operate with a verified social media handle, Iran Armed Forces, stating that the 22 individuals were linked to Israeli intelligence services, and police authority in according to AFP, confirmed the arrest of the 22 persons the police said are Israeli spies. This, Israel Defense Forces, IDF, in a statement issued on Saturday morning said that Israeli troops in a precise attack killed the commander of the Palestine Corps of the Quds Force, Saeed Azadi, in We had reported that the India Ministry of External Affairs, in a statement issued on Tuesday, says the government of India has moved India students in Tehran out of the Iranian capital city due to safety concerns following the continuous exchange of air bombardments between Israel and Iran, while at the same time, the government of India advised other citizens in Tehran that can afford their own transport fare to leave the Iranian capital city immediately, adding that some citizens of India have been evacuated out of Iran completely through the border with Armenia. This, the India Embassy in Israel had on Sunday advised persons of India origin not to move unnecessarily in Tel Aviv and they should obey safety instructions from the Israeli authorities and Home Front Command. We had reported that the ongoing military campaigns between Israel and Iran on Monday did not spare journalists as the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, IRIB building in Tehran was hit by Israeli missile, with the Israel Defense Forces, IDF saying that the media was one of the Israeli military targets to block the military communications of Iran armed forces, which the Iran armed forces immediately retaliated with ballistic missiles fired into Israel, and IDF in a statement issued late hours on Monday confirmed that millions of Israeli residents are currently running into bomb shelters with air raid sirens sounding across several places in Israel. A video currently trending on social media showed the TV host, Sahar Amami, fleeing the studio when the station was hit by a missile during a live broadcast. Although there are reports from Iran that the state media resumed normal operations minutes after the attack, but there are unconfirmed reports that some journalists were killed in the attack as part of the building was completely on fire. This international news agency, Reuters, put the total deaths recorded so far since the war began on Friday at 248, quoting Iranian source of Iran suffering 224 deaths, and Israeli source saying Israel has recorded 24 deaths. We had reported that not less than 100 persons, mostly civilians, have been confirmed dead less than 48 hours since, on Friday early morning night, Israel and Iran began new massive waves of offensive military campaigns that have forced commercial airplanes to avoid the troubled Middle East airspace as the two countries fly missiles of mass destruction in the air corridors, with local media confirming Iran ballistic missile killed 10 persons and injured more than 20 others at a single building struck at Bat Yam city in Israel as the angry Iranian soldiers launched a massive all-night continuous air bombardments campaign against the state of Israel that earlier on Friday began the new offensive military campaign when it flew fighter jets to strike Iranian military homes, nuclear weapon facilities, killing Iran nuclear weapon scientists, military leaders including Iranian Chief of Staff and Commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC, alongside almost 60 civilian death casualties. This, President Donald Trump of the United States, U.S. in a statement issued on Friday shortly after Israeli attack via his personal verified social media handle on his own Truth social media platform, praised and boasted about the military strength and capability of Israel, saying, "Things will only get worse for Iran because he gave them a chance to make a deal but they ignored the chance," adding with some level of mockery that the Iranian hardliners who spoke bravely are now dead as a result of the Israel attack on Iran, saying with emphasis that the US produces the best level military equipments anywhere in the world, and Israel already has a lot of the US military leather equipments, adding that Israel knows how to use the weapons and more will be giving to them. And in another statement issued also through the Truth social media platform on Saturday shortly after the unprecedented military parades to mark the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States Army, President Donald Trump threatened to unleash the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces to attack Iran at a level never seen before if Iran dare attack U.S. in any way, shape or form, claiming that the U.S. had nothing to do with the Israeli attack on Iran. Reacting earlier, Iran Supreme Leader, Imam Saeed Ali Khamenei said Iran will retaliate Israeli attack with a strong response of no mercy, just as Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Israeli attack on Tehran on Friday killed military commanders, nuclear scientists, women and children, while wishing President Donald Trump and U.S. armed forces happy birthday on Saturday. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu alleged that Iran made an attempt to assassinate President Donald Trump twice, adding that Israel attacked the military and nuclear facilities in Tehran on Friday because Iran was building intercontinental nuclear weapons that could be used to destroy Israel and any other country in the world.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way. Bringing you the news in a more digital way.